Hello, if you're new here, please like, subscribe, share. I'm O Speaks. Let's get this going. Bam, boom. Hello, Miss Just J. Title of today's live: Conservatives fight over Megyn Kelly interviewing Shapiro, Tucker, um, interviewed Fuentes, and Candace is still under attack. This is what they would call in the political world infighting, and I don't believe that's what it is. I believe that never Trumpers are trying to take their party back, which is the Republican Party. They've always hated MAGA, and they are working really, really, really hard and overtime to take it back so that they can pick their candidate in the next election. I don't see that happening, but that doesn't mean they're not going to try. We're going to get right into it because I have a pretty good presentation, and I also want to go into a little bit on my timeline to show you guys what's going on. But it's pretty wild to watch because, again, these are lifelong political commentators, I guess, the Ben Shapiros of the world. Mark Levin is another one. Who else? Steven Crowder. All these guys hate what's been going on with Candace Owens and with Dave Smith. Who else? Ian Carroll. They don't like the new people. Even Tucker Carlson, who's not really new, but he's aligned more with these other people, and they're really, really, really having a problem with it, to the point where they're now gatekeeping. They're telling you who you can and can't interview. Oh, they'll say you can interview them, but you shouldn't. And if you do, we're gonna come after you. And it's a really weird leftist thing. No matter who you are, no matter what you say, you're an anti-Semite. All you got to do is say, "I'm not for us funding this war," and you're an anti-Semite now. So they're acting just like leftists do. And I don't know. I mean, they have to realize it because people keep saying it, but that's not going to stop them from doing it. And it's a really weird, really, 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 really weird time to be on the right. Good thing I'm not a conservative. So again, let's get back.
Didn't put
let's get to
timestamps on them, and Discord came out and said they didn't exist. This was supposedly text messages, not Discord messages. It's my understanding from the indictment. I actually did not read that they were text messages.
Yeah, that's because.
All right, so this guy, he's about to. He thinks, how you doing, Miss Phoenix? He thinks he's going to be proving Candace wrong, but he's actually going to make a case for her. So I'll go back. She said she didn't hear that the messages from Tyler Robinson were text messages because she heard that they were from Discord. And he's about to make the case that it's absolutely not from Discord. Problem with that is that was the official narrative. And he's about to prove the official narrative wrong, coming right into Candace Owens' territory.
Yeah, but they didn't put timestamps on them, and Discord came out and said they didn't exist. This was supposedly text messages, not Discord messages. It's my understanding from the indictment. I actually did not read that they were text messages.
Yeah, that's because she didn't read the indictment. This is the indictment. Look at the top paragraph, count 5, and look at the last sentence. That's directing his roommate to delete incriminating text messages. But we're not done. You can pause to read this as well. This is where the indictment starts to talk about the roommate. I'll read it for you. Police interviewed Robinson's roommate, a biological male who was involved in a romantic relationship with Robinson. The roommate told police that the roommate received messages from Robinson about the shooting and provided those messages to police. On September 10th, the roommate received a text message from Robinson which said, "Drop what you are doing and look under my keyboard." The roommate looked under the keyboard and found a note that stated, "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and I'm going to take it." Police found a photograph of this note. The following text exchange then took place, and then it goes to list out the conversation that they had. So in the indictment, it says they were text messages. But Candace's proof is that there weren't timestamps, and Discord said these messages didn't happen. Yikes. Discord said it didn't happen because they were text messages.
All right, so here's what's really funny about this. Let me go back just a little bit so you can read what I sent to him. The official statement was that they were messages in Discord. After Discord said it was false, they said they changed it. They said that they were text messages. This is where you guys going after her for, oh crap, I can't see it. Why? No. Of course. Let me get rid of the banner. This is where you guys going after her for ignorance is faulty. She's disputing their words and how they conflict. That's the whole point. So what her issue is that the official statements have all been lies. What's going on? Not worth it. And he just made the case that the official statement was a lie because he doesn't know that that was the official case. So he's mocking her as if she's the idiot. She's the one who's dumb because she thinks that they were in a Discord. Well, she's thinking that because that was the official statement.
Discord said it didn't happen because they were text messages.
This is shocking. She
This is
thinks they were
shocking.
Discord messages. She had already done, at this point, whole hour-long shows, deep diving into this case, suggesting it was framed, suggesting that the messages were fake. Had she even read the indictment? Because I did, and I went back and looked at it, and it's very clear these are text messages, not Discord messages.
Text messages, not Discord messages. This dramatic sissy is acting as if he's shocked. This is shocking. Oh my God, she didn't read the indictments. This is her statements were before the indictments came out, and again, they were based on the official narrative that the government was putting out. And I'm going to prove it.
Text messages, but she doesn't know that in this interview. How are you going to make these elaborate, extraordinary claims and not even do due diligence or basic research and reading and familiarize yourself with the facts of this case? And the fact that there are not timestamps associated with them, that is for presentation purposes in an indictment. So they are easier to follow and not confusing. But in the actual court case, all of this metadata and information will, and probably already has been, I don't know, but if not, it will be turned over to the defense team, and they will have the opportunity to independently verify and scrutinize all of the evidence against their client, including these text messages. But Candace doesn't care. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She's just spewing wild conspiracies and with grave allegations of people inside TPUSA betraying their dear friend with no care for the facts, with very sloppy minimum research. And fundamentally, she just does this because it feels, it's all about how it just feels. It feels fake and gay is what she always says, which is so wild. But
that's his real problem. You can tell that's his real problem. The feels fake and gay. She didn't do any research. So again, he clearly didn't do any research because he doesn't even know where she got that information from. It's really funny. How you doing, Audition Dirt?
It's just a vibe to her. And I'm sorry, but when we're talking about life and death and we're talking about accusing people of serious crimes against their loved ones, you got to have a little bit more than vibes to go off of, and you have to do your frickin' research.
You have to do your frickin' research. Okay, well, this is what she was basing it on. So here, as of the 12th of September, TMZ got an exclusive from Discord saying that Tyler Robinson did not use their platform. Okay, why are they saying this if this just was pulled out of thin air? They said to either plan the murder of Charlie Kirk or to hide evidence. And this is what's so funny because he didn't do his research. A Discord spokesperson tells TMZ, in the course of our investigation, we identified a Discord account associated with the suspect, but have found no evidence that the suspect planned this incident or promoted violence on Discord. That's weird. Where did they get this from? Next. According to this, I don't know what date this was, but during testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee on Tuesday, FBI Director Cash Patel confirmed reporting by the Washington Post that Tyler Robinson, the accused assassin of Charlie Kirk, appeared to confess in an online Discord chat. That's weird. Where are they getting this from? Why is Cash Patel testifying about Discord, but in the indictment it says nothing about Discord? It says, oh, no, they're text messages. This is where Candace got.
So what is alt-right?
And what's really annoying about that is this guy's indignation. Look at how she didn't even do her research.
I'm sorry, but when we're talking about life and death and we're talking about accusing people of serious crimes against their loved ones,
Serious?
you got to have a little bit more than vibes to go off of, and you have to do your frickin'
Really?
research.
He clearly didn't do his research because he knows nothing about Discord. He's confused that she's even talking about Discord. but the official statement was that it was done in Discord. And then they switched over to text, did the indictment, and then Kash Patel went in front of a Senate Judiciary Committee and went back to the Discord story. That's not the indictment. She didn't read the indictment. So while him and the first guy think that they're proving Candace Owens wrong, they're literally making her point that the government lied. And they're too ignorant to know it. Or deceptive. They could be just fake and lying. So anyway, Ben Shapiro went on Megyn Kelly's new formatted podcast and had a conversation with her. And I wanted to review that, not the whole thing, but just parts of it, because there's some interesting things that he said in there. And there were some lies he told, of course. And then after that, I want to go over Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes. I wasn't going to do this, but people are mischaracterizing how Tucker handled the interview. So I would like for you guys to see for yourselves how he handled that interview, if you haven't seen it already.
So what is alt-right, and why do they loathe you?
So there is a group of people in the United States who are rooted in an idea of grievance against the system that they believe has put them underfoot, and those people believe that essentially they are underfoot because of their white status, and thus they must take revenge on anybody who is disproportionately benefiting from the system that tends to, in their own minds, be Jews. And you see this mostly refracted right now through a young man named Nick Fuentes. He's 27 years old. He is the leader of a movement called the Groypers. I don't know if any of you are familiar with this, but he says and believes truly awful things. I mean, truly awful things. Not just about Jews. I mean, he has said, for example, that the Vice President of the United States, this is a direct quote, I believe, is a fat gay race traitor married to a Jeet. That's a direct quote about the Vice
upset
President.
that he named his son Vivek.
Yes. He also has suggested and spent years trying to destroy Charlie Kirk's organization. Charlie, in texts that have now been revealed, called him vermin for exactly this reason, and had banned him and his followers from TPUSA because he believed that Nick Fuentes and the Groypers and white supremacy didn't belong as part of the conservative movement.
It's interesting because that's what Ben Shapiro was trying to do to Charlie Kirk. And Candace Owens showed text messages to that effect. Charlie Kirk saying how much he disliked Ben Shapiro. So how did the defenders of Ben Shapiro and Christian Zionism, whatever that is, and the Zionists, how did they defend that? They said, well, yeah, but Charlie had him on his show. Well, that's because that's what Charlie Kirk did. He spoke with opposition. So just because he had Ben Shapiro on, I literally see people saying that he was a good friend. Absolute lie. We saw the text messages. Ben Shapiro tried to stop Charlie Kirk from becoming who we knew him to be. Back in, I think, 2018, the same time he was doing that to a young white kid who was slowly being radicalized named Nick Fuentes. Ben Shapiro was actively trying to stop all of them from coming up. And now he's sitting there talking about people stopping Charlie Kirk from coming up. He was one of them.
And so the alt-right became this, or they're two sides of the same coin, or they're parts of the same sort of broad movement. And unfortunately, I think that they've gained a foothold in sort of the internet subsystem. I don't think they have a foothold in mainstream America at all. And I think one of the mistakes that people make is to think that the internet is real life. The internet is absolutely not real life. And the first thing people need to do is turn off X, which is poisoning brains and making people think that not true things, it's basically like war games. They think the missiles are real. The missiles are not real. The things happening on X are not a reflection of real life, but they can bleed over to real life if enough people take them seriously.
Ben Shapiro is on X every day arguing with people, calling them anti-Semites. But you need to turn it off because you just can't handle what's really happening. He knows. Ben Shapiro, ask Ben Shapiro, he knows.
So you and I've talked about Nick Fuentes many times over the years in our many appearances together, and that's how I knew about him, because he was saying absolutely terrible things about you.
I would hate for people to believe that the Nick Fuentes sort of, my problems with Nick Fuentes are about me, because they really are not. They're about the fact that Nick Fuentes is a truly horrifying person who believes truly horrifying things. And again, there's a reason why Charlie Kirk despised him. There's a reason why every mainstream political commentator has been highly critical of him. It's the reason why. These are not arguments. He's not a person who's making arguments. He's a Hitler-loving troll. And I say that advisedly. He literally says on his show that he loves Adolf Hitler. Okay, so just the reason this has come up in recent weeks is because Tucker, your guest last night, decided to have him on last week and to completely gloss him, in my opinion. And you can make up your own opinion as to what you think Tucker was doing during that interview, but I know what it looks like when Tucker Carlson decides to be an aggressive interviewer, when he decides to ask difficult questions of people. Tucker is eminently capable of doing that. He did it to Ted Cruz quite thoroughly.
So Tucker explained why he did that to Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz immediately started that interview out by calling him an anti-Semite. So Tucker gave him pushback. And pretty much that whole interview became about anti-Semites. Anti-Semites, Israel, our relationship with Israel, why we're funding. Like he turned that interview into that. Ted Cruz did that, not Tucker Carlson. So this is what he just said there is why I want to go over that interview between Tucker and Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes, before I continue, is a troll. I don't believe he believes any of the racist stuff he says. I believe he says the racist stuff to get attention, to bring people to his channel so that he can espouse his ideas. That's what I believe. And I believe that he's going to display that when we get to that interview shortly. Well, in a little bit.
He decided for any number of reasons, and I try not to attribute motivations to people, that he was going to treat Fuentes with kid gloves, that he was going to not ask him about any of the things that I've just mentioned, literally any of them, and to essentially normalize Fuentes, act as a sort of gateway drug or as what I call Tucker, as an ideological launderer of bad ideas over the last couple of years. And this is not coming from a place of animus for Tucker on a personal level. I've known Tucker for a very long time. Tucker and I, whenever we're in personal situations, we get along great. I think I saw that Tucker talked about how we were at Charlie's memorial in the vice president's box together, and he's correct. I mean, we saw each other, we said hello, we talked, it was very friendly, and all of that. And it's also true that a couple of days after Charlie's murder, he reached out and he called me and he said, listen, I know that we're at odds, and we've been at odds for a number of reasons, mainly political. I mean, again, on a personal level, I go fishing with Tucker anytime. The real question is, for me, I got into this business because I care about the ideas and I care about the ideals. And so when you're determining what is conservatism, what should the future of America look like, and where do you draw the lines, those are the questions that I need to answer in my job. For me, my business is really not about friendship. I have lots of friends, people who I love, with whom I disagree on politics and don't believe they should be leaders in the conservative movement, for example. And that to me is the real question. In any case, Tucker reached out. He said, we've had a bunch of disagreements, and what if we could put those aside and align toward the DSA in particular, is what he mentioned. And I said, Tucker, you're totally right. Let's do that. That would be great. In fact,
the TSA?
The DSA. The Democratic Socialist
Why the
America.
TSA? How did that bring you together?
The Democratic Socialist America. And the reason
that I know.
Yes, and the reason I'm taking
TSA only divides people.
Is because, yes, the reason I'm taking out my phone is because I don't just, I like to evidence what I'm saying with, actual evidence. So I texted him, and the text exchange was very nice. I mean, here's what the actual text exchange went like after the call. So I texted him, and I said, thanks so much for calling. It means the world. It truly does. Should we do a show together, talking about the DSA threat, Democratic Socialist America threat, and orienting in the same direction? Happy to do whatever it takes to bring everyone back together for the fight that matters. And Tucker then wrote back, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm going to spend the next week or two thinking about how to be most effective. The country is clearly on the brink. I reached out repeatedly after that. Nothing happened. And again, I thought it was a good idea at the time. I think I felt differently after I saw what he did with Nick Fuentes, and after he proceeded, in my opinion, to spend the subsequent weeks doing literally nothing to fight the left. I say this with sadness because Tucker used to be, I think, a deeply important part of the conservative push to win. The number of times that Tucker Carlson has mentioned Zohar Mamdani since October 5th on his show is once. And it was in the context of Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson talking about the appeal of Zohar Mamdani. Just by way of contrast, not because I'm a perfect representative here, but because you've talked about Zohar Mamdani a lot. A lot of us have. Since October 5th, I did 17 separate shows on Zohar Mamdani, including 4 in the last week before the election. Okay, because
all right, so Mamdani is the guy who's now the mayor of New York. Ben Shapiro seems to be suggesting that Tucker had a responsibility to talk about that guy. Tucker doesn't live in New York. That's local politics. And for whatever reason, he believes that Tucker should have spoken out against him. I don't know what he thinks Tucker should have done, but you have a show, you wanted to use 14 or 17 episodes on him, and you did. What does that have to do with Tucker, and how is that disappointing to you? It's just a weird... This is why I put gatekeeping in my description. He seems to believe that he can tell other people who they can talk to, who they shouldn't talk to, and what topics they need to cover in order to satisfy him and his idea of fighting against the Democrat Socialists of America. Or you can contrast your ideas. That's what I would do. But he wants Tucker to do these interviews that Tucker does not do, which is contentious interviews. Again, the only reason that happened to Ted Cruz is because Ted Cruz called him an anti-Semite. He literally asked him, why are your ideas lately been so anti-Israel? Or no, he didn't even say Israel. He said anti-Jew. And Tucker's like, whoa, are you calling me an anti-Semite? And that started a contentious interview. So Ben Shapiro wants Tucker to do his bidding because that's who he dislikes. Nick Fuentes is who he dislikes. And it's interesting, he said he reached out to, Tucker reached out to him, and because Tucker didn't respond, I guess, fast enough to him, he felt slighted. Well, Steven Crowder reached out to Ben Shapiro and hadn't heard anything back to him either. So what's the difference? Yeah, two things can be true at the same time. You can support Israeli people and be critical of the Israeli government. Apparently, According to the entire world of X, you can't do that. You're an anti-Semite. No matter who you are, no matter if you're Jewish, you're an anti-Semite. And what's interesting is they did a poll within Israel, and almost half the people of Israel say that Bibi Netanyahu is handling the war in Gaza wrong. And that's their own people. So what they're doing is they're paying influencers. This is where that $7,000, I think it's like $380 came from. You see people talking about $7,000 checks on X. It's because the Israeli government is paying influencers to help influence because they lost the PR war. It's been over. And the majority of Americans under 30 are completely against that war, and they're siding with the Palestinians. And instead of saying, I wonder what's going on, what they do is they just start calling everybody an I guess everyone under 30 is influenced by Nick Fuentes. And now they're anti-Semites. That's not the reality. It could be that they just disagree with you, but they can't handle disagreement. They refuse to believe that their idea is bad. And Tucker Carlson has been for every single war since he's been in politics. I know because I've been watching. I know because I used to agree with him. But as we grow, our ideas should be more nuanced, and his don't seem to ever do that. He has these lockstep points that he will never separate from, and that's just what it is. And he believes facts. Those are facts, evidence. He just now lied about Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker's conversation about that, whatever the guy's name is from New York. They weren't talking about his appeal. They were asking why he appeals to New Yorkers. And one of the examples they gave is when the topic of Israel came up for some reason. He said, I'm running from here of New York. I'm dealing with the issue here. He got mad, Ben Shapiro, because he wanted to hear somebody disavow Palestinians or side with Israel. But the people didn't want to hear that, clearly, because he won.
When you're orienting against the left, you really should orient against the left.
Okay, so a lot in there. I think, just to be clear, so the breakdown from the detente after Charlie was him interviewing Fuentes. Was that the next thing that happened that led to the blow up?
I mean, yes. I mean, I had not spoken a word.
So it wasn't that he attacked you, or you had
no,
something?
I don't care about people attacking me, and I don't think Tucker cares about people attacking him. I mean, again, we're professionals. We're in a business where people comment on what we say publicly. Again, this is why I think you and I differ on our angle with regard to, for example, Candace Owens. I think that what Candace Owens is doing right now is evil. It is evil what she's doing right now. Okay, and I say that again.
But what? Because I don't opine on whether it's evil or not, but my position is it's really none of my business. And
why is it? I have a question. Why is it none of your business? I mean, you comment on these things for a living.
I'm not mother of the internet.
No, but if this were on the left and somebody were accusing Charlie Kirk of his wife having murdered him, I assume that you would be talking about it.
Is that what Candace is?
Did you hear what he just said? He literally just made that up. He said that she accused Charlie Kirk's wife of murdering him. That's an absolute lie. You know how I know it's a lie? I watched every episode that she's done. Never once even hinted at that. Matter of fact, she's defended, praised, said she's not as strong she wishes she were, and she's not that mature yet. She can't get there. She said she does not envy her. And he goes on this platform and lies. And the next day, I'm going to show you guys in a little bit, the next day, X is filled with Candace Owens supposedly saying that Erica Kirk had something to do with her husband's death. He is the purveyor of this narrative.
I mean, you comment on these things for a living.
I'm not mother of the internet.
No, but if this were on the left and somebody were accusing Charlie Kirk of his wife having murdered him, I assume that you would be talking about it.
Is that what Candace is accusing Erica of?
Yes.
Of murdering her own husband?
Yes.
She's accusing TPUSA insiders and other members of the right wing, including Seth Dillon, of being involved in the murder of Charlie Kirk. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not Erica Kirk. You see how he switched it? A lot of people didn't even catch that. So first he said that she said it was his wife, and then when she follows up, whoa, she really said that? Well, yeah, she's accusing Seth Dillon of Babylon Bee and other people in TPUSA. That's not Erica Kirk. He just made that up. And honestly, if I were Candace Owens, I'd sue the crap out of him. Because that's slander. You just lied. And you can't show anywhere of her saying anything like that. Not even close.
Of his wife having murdered him, I assume that you would be talking about it.
Is that what Candace is accusing Erica of?
Yes.
Of murdering her own husband?
She's
Yes.
accusing TPUSA insiders and other members of the right wing, including Seth Dillon, of being involved in the murder of Charlie Kirk, yes.
Okay. Like I said, I don't take in that content, which is an honest statement. I don't have time to watch
No,
the
I
show.
believe you. I believe you. But the point that I'm making is that
What I understand
friendship
Candace
should not,
to
in our
be
business,
doing.
I think it's important. Listen,
No, and Candace
friendship
and I
should
are
not
not
trump.
friends. We don't even know each
I
other.
understand, but even with Tucker, friendship should not trump our manifest requirement to speak out when people do and say things that are both detrimental to conservatism and morally wrong.
Okay,
So now he's saying that even if you're friends, you are required to say something against even your friends if you think that they said something morally wrong. The problem is you just made that up and you want her to disavow Candace Owens based on what you just made up. And he's no dummy. He's extremely smart. He knows exactly what he's doing. This is evil. What he did there is evil because he's intentionally lying. And what's really fascinating, I've been really, really, really active on X. People are throwing out these conspiracies while calling her a conspiracy theorist. It's fascinating to watch.
I mean, you comment on these things for a living.
I'm not mother of the internet.
No, but if this were on the
He's trying to press her. You got to say something. What do you mean? You comment for a living. If somebody on the left said this, you would say something. He's pressing her. Why? Why is it so important for you to get her to disavow? He wants her to jump out the window so Candace can start going at her, and now he's got a new ally. This is what he's been doing for the last couple of years.
left and somebody were accusing Charlie Kirk of his wife having murdered him, I assume that you would be talking about it.
Is that what Candace is accusing Erica of?
Yes.
So
Of murdering
bad.
her own husband?
She's accusing TPUSA insiders and other members of the right wing, including Seth Dillon, of being involved in the murder of Charlie Kirk, yes.
Okay. Like I said, I don't take in that content, which is an honest statement. I don't have time to watch
No,
the
I
show.
believe you. But the point that I'm making is that
What I understand
friendship
Candace
should not,
to
in our
be
business,
doing.
I think it's important. Listen,
No, and Candace
friendship
and I
should
are
not
not
trump.
friends. We don't even know each
I
other.
understand, but even with Tucker, friendship should not trump our manifest requirement to speak out when people do and say things that are both detrimental to conservatism and morally wrong.
Okay, so I don't totally disagree, but I think the way of handling that, at least for me, is much different.
And this is what I've been asking people to prove. Not one can show me her saying that. Here's a post. Share screen. This guy has been doing nothing but posting propaganda. And again, it's really interesting to watch. Make this bigger. And of course, he's going after Megyn Kelly here. Where's the other one? Well, you know what? I'm going to wait on this. Sorry. I'm going to wait on this. Because that happened. Megyn Kelly went back and researched what Ben-Shapiro said. And guess what she found? She found exactly what I just told you guys.
He said that Candace has been claiming Erica Kirk was behind the murder of Charlie, which I had not heard, and I was taken aback because that seems like something I would have heard. It's so crazy. And I have since learned it is not true. Candace has not made that claim. And in fact, I've now seen several clips of Candace specifically defending Erica Kirk and saying she would never make a claim like that about Erica, and that she is open-minded to other people at Turning Point. That's obvious. She's been making that point. I had heard that point. But she's specifically been defending Erica Kirk, and she's been saying she does not think that of Erica. And in fact, if you read her comments, she's under pressure to make comments about Erica. And so far, what I've seen, she hasn't. So.
And what's interesting is now they're attacking Megyn Kelly. Astounding in light of videos like those below that Megyn Kelly didn't know of those as of late last week, but did get to know enough in a weekend. This person's English isn't good. To fact check Ben-Shapiro. Why is Kelly running scared from Candace while being perfectly comfortable to fact check? So how dare you fact check somebody lying to you on stage? That's an interesting thought. I don't even know why someone's mind would go there. I'm so completely done with Megyn Kelly. Candace absolutely did allude to the fact that Erica Kirk killed her own husband. That did not come from Ben-Shapiro, but from thousands who saw that very specific clip. To go further and say Candace defended Erica, I'm gonna show you guys the clip. This person says Megyn Kelly's problem right now, and the reason I'm taking a pause on her isn't that she's wrong. She still gets the major things right. It's that she's compromising her integrity and gaslighting her audience to run cover for her friends who are wrong on those things. She's not friends with Candace Owens. I don't know where that's coming from. Yeah, oh man. When they fired her, that was it. That was it. And not only was she outshining him then, she blew up even more when they got rid of her. And they just can't handle it. They can't handle it. Jeremy Boring went nuts. What's really interesting, and I'm not even going to play it on here, Jeremy Boring wanted to hire Nick Fuentes. I thought that was interesting considering what you heard just now, what Ben Shapiro was saying about him. Megyn Kelly believes the internet is a real place. Therefore, she's willing to throw Ben Shapiro under the bus if it means she can capture the Fuentes, Tucker, and Owens cult followings. She is in the business of ratings, not integrity. So it's throwing Ben Shapiro under the bus by telling the truth. These people don't care about the truth. They don't care about lies. They don't care about Charlie Kirk. Everything they're saying is to smear people that they don't like. How's it throwing Shapiro under the bus to say, wait a minute, she's not doing that? That's where we're at right now. I think it finally hit Megyn Kelly how totally Ben Shapiro cleaned her clock last week. And now she's lashing out. I don't even know what these people are talking about. They're all crazy. And they're all just making stuff up.
So I saw things go south between you and Tucker, at least from my vantage point, when you disagreed on Israel. That was obvious. And he was, well, let me just make my point. Sure. So he was saying things that were critical of Israel and our policy towards Israel. And then you did one show where you did what I thought you should have done if you disagreed with him, which clearly you did, which is say what you believe and what you think is factual and like educate your audience on what you think are the real facts and give them the evidence for it. But you named him. And it felt like an attack. And that, to me, was the beginning of the end, where he was like, now it's on. Because he felt personally attacked by you, as opposed to just challenging his idea. I think you named him and you kind of diminished him. And, you know, he's an 800-pound gorilla, and if you mess with a gorilla, he's going to fight. And to me, that's where it started to go south. And because I remember that day being like, oh, shit. Well, I don't want to see this.
But here's the thing. I would urge everybody to go back and listen to the show that you're referring to, where I criticized Tucker's ideas, not Tucker as a person. Tucker then responded by claiming that I do not love America. That is a direct quote. That I do not love America because I was spending too much time covering the October 7th attacks, and then proceeded in January to then say that I wanted his children to die in a foreign war. Okay, so those are...
So obviously that was hyperbole, but Ben Shapiro believes that being America first, you have to be Israel first. And there is no America first without Israel. He said it. So that is literally an allegiance to another country, and you expect Americans to go with it. And a lot of them do. But when he said he wants my kids to go off to war, he's literally talking about he wants to send Americans off to war, if need be, to defend another country. And it's hyperbole to say you're going to send my kids, or you want to send your kids, or you want to send somebody else's kids to war, because that's what it is. And Ben Shapiro's pretending to not fully understand that. And yes, oh yeah, for sure. Not only did she take his crown, she now has the #1 podcast. That's even over Joe Rogan, dude. Her numbers are insane. The other day, she had 250,000 people in her chat. In the chat. That's insanity. I've never seen anything like it. I don't know if there's ever been anything like that. 250,000 people in the chat. And he's acting like her ideas are the bad ones. Well, it seems like more people are agreeing with her than you. So what does he do? He started this whole PR tour where he's just smearing her, smearing Tucker. But let me go back to her real quick, because this is that video. I wanted to play this video and watch how nasty this video is. And I'm going to explain why it's nasty in a second. So first, this guy says, hey, Megyn Kelly, maybe don't take the word of a pathological lying sociopath over your friend. They love doing that. Over your friend. Ben Shapiro, and then publicly call him a liar. She didn't do that. She said what he said wasn't true. But this is what they do. They're just making stuff up. Something you claimed you don't do with your friends. Here's Candace directly implicating Erica Kirk in Charlie's murder. Context, TPUSA involvement. All right, let's see what exactly happened.
Blueprint in all of his journals, but more so.
But wait, Charlie, wasn't he like a boy genius? He's a pretty bright kid. Wouldn't he have maybe formalized that succession plan outside of like a diary? Maybe call one of his many lawyers, maybe formalize it in a will, because that's what you're supposed to do if you are thinking about dying and you need to make a plan. You make a will. I'm sure he had a will, but no, he wanted to put it in these notebooks. And then the plan was to guilt us, I think, to try to haunt us with the ghost of Charlie's notebooks that we're never going to be allowed to read, but we're supposed to accept that they most definitely read, like for sure. That's what it feels like. Do you agree? I think their thought process was it will be much easier for us to control the spirit of Charlie Kirk than the actual living, breathing Charlie Kirk.
This organization.
So
He left me a blueprint in all of his journals, but more so.
But wait, Charlie, wasn't he like a boy?
So it sounds kind of bad, huh? Now, if you just watch that, it's like, oh wow, she really did say something about Erica Kirk. Problem is that wasn't about Erica Kirk. She was talking about Rob McCoy, because he said the same thing. Rob McCoy said that he left the blueprint and he got to see it, and he was alluding to the fact that his son, Mikey McCoy, was going to be the replacement, and then Erica decided she's going to be the CEO and blew all these plans up. But she wasn't talking about Erica Kirk. She was talking about Rob McCoy. So they edited that video to make it seem like she was talking about Charlie Kirk's wife and that she was alluding to the fact that she had something to do with it. I don't know. But that is a disgusting post. And I think here it is. I even said that. I said as much. I said, let's make this bigger again. I said, this post is nasty and dishonest. She has praised and defended Erica repeatedly. Now you pull a clip of her responding to Rob McCoy and what he said about Charlie's journals and edit to make it look like it's about Erica Kirk. You're using the death to go after people you don't like politically. Sick. And people are agreeing with me. Clearly they're agreeing. And it's just really, really wild to look at, because they're smearing. They don't care if what they're putting out is true. They're just flooding the internet with this stuff. And it's so weird to watch. And it's clearly a psyop. I believe the highest that he had in his chat was 25 or 30,000. She had 250,000, dude. If you look at the chat, you can't see anything. You can't do anything. It's insane watching that happen. It's like, it's so insane. So what are they doing? They're just smearing this lady. Share this tab instead. Here they're talking about, I mean, these posts get ugly. Let me close that other one. These posts get ugly. So here he's talking about she's smearing TPUSA. Ian Carroll's hilarious. He said, hey, did you know Charlie? Were you friends with him? Because he knows that they weren't friends. And he didn't know him. And I said 2 weeks before he passed, he said he wanted to bring her back to TPUSA. And it's actually, I was wrong. It was actually 2 days. It was 48 hours. And I want you guys to see how delusional these people are. Because this guy says, huh? What are you talking about? He said, you're literally delusional. Show me proof. Because everyone who worked with Charlie says different. Toured together, ha ha ha, please show me. So I said, well, let's see if you're an honest man who can admit when he's wrong. Or will you double down like a snake? And I posted a video, or actually it's a YouTube video, but this is from last year, 1 year ago. I highlighted it. And then I posted an article on her tour as of June 14th of 2024. Candace Owens speaks during Turning Point Action Conference. Look at how this guy responds to this. This is how they are. And I said, time's ticking, the Yiddish man up. So he responds with Eric Bowling when he lied or was wrong, whatever he did, he was wrong. And he said that Candace Owens hadn't been around since 2015, 2016. So I said, yet again, let's see if you can be honest. And I sent this video. Many years. So that was her coming out after that. Um, I might as well finish playing it. Sorry, let me go back up there. And that was the actual promo for that tour. So I sent him that, and then I sent him this one. So you lied about her? So then this guy, the Yiddish warrior, said, "If I'm wrong, I'll own it. Uh, I'm literally looking it up now. Won't change my mind on Candace Owens. I can't stand her." And I said, "Okay, it doesn't have to be. Hold on. It doesn't have to change your mind on her. The issue is she's not lying. I can do this about anything you say she lied about because I actually watch her. What's insane is that anyone can look this stuff up and they're running with the lies of or debunk narratives. It's wrong." So he said, "Nothing with Charlie, though. Show me video." On the Patrick Bet David, they had multiple people from TPUSA that stated that they hadn't tapped in years. You see that I posted the video. So, oh wait, where is it? Where'd it go? Is it gone? I had a reply to that. That's weird. Huh. Because I responded to that. Show replies. That is weird. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Okay, so I said even in that he lied and said 18 months because it hadn't been 18 months. It was June 2024. This podcast was in September 2025. To save face, he still couldn't help but add a few months. And Charlie literally said he wanted to bring her back 2 weeks before he was shot. This is a fact, and it was actually 2 days before. And he said, if you want to be right, cool. Still haven't seen video of them together touring. I'm online looking. Candace is the one who said he wanted her back. Can you show me where Charlie said that? Candace is a lying grifter. I'm looking everywhere. I'm just asking for the video. And I said, I just shared 2 videos, one of Bowling admitting he was wrong, and another of the promo with both Charlie and Candace. I don't care about being right. I am right. I care about people being dishonest. It's wrong. What's fascinating is even in the face of literal video and proof, and the guy that he was citing saying, "Oh yeah, I was wrong," he still would not admit that he was wrong. And this is what these people are doing. This is how they are. It's insane to watch. How many of these? I keep getting responses. Here's another one. Somebody keeps posting this. Erica knows everything. And people keep doing this. And what it says is, this is one person, but there's a whole bunch of them who are posting this. A lot of people are posting this. It says Megyn Kelly is either ignorant to the point where she shouldn't be taken seriously any longer, or she's lying intentionally and also shouldn't be taken seriously any longer. And they post this thing saying of Candace Owens, a tweet which she did send that says Erica knows everything. The problem with that is I said something tells me, even with this full thread, you won't correct your out of context lie. Prove me wrong. They weren't talking about anything. They were talking about Netanyahu and the pressure that Charlie was under. And that's what she said. She knows everything. Because this guy said, surely his wife knew this. She'd been there when he was feeling pressured and upset, she would know exactly what's going on. And she said, yeah, she knows everything. They were talking about the pressure. They weren't saying, it was not about she knows everything about what happened to Charlie. So they're doing that, and they're doing it on purpose. It's fascinating to watch because it's purposeful lying, and they're literally just making stuff up to smear this lady. And it's very, very, very interesting to watch. What is this? And a lot said they were fake. Is this another one? I don't even know what this is. More evidence emerges suggesting that the texts were fabricated. Okay, so this guy is a complete nut job. So he's saying that the text messages that Candace Owens showed were fake, and they weren't, because she literally did it online. She scrolled through her phone and showed the texts. So he was actually proven wrong. So I don't even know why. She should sue some of these people. I would sue some of these people, because what she's doing is not what they're doing. She's asking questions. These people are just making stuff up. Fascinating, fascinating, fascinating. Anyway, let's go back to the video, because it's I could sit on that for hours.
That's a rhetorical.
No, it's
point.
not. I'm sorry, it's not. An attack on motivation is a very different thing from an attack on an idea.
His point was that you were sounding like a neocon, and he's upset with anybody who wants us to get too involved in Israel's conflict because he feels it endangers American children.
Okay, the idea that, number one, the idea that I want the United States to be directly involved in Israel's conflict
I
is not
get it.
true.
No, I know that, Ben.
I've been urging Israel to get off American aid for literally as long as I have been active in politics.
I'm making clear what his point was.
But my point is that that's not his point. And again, none of this.
So we disagree.
We disagree on the interpretation of what Tucker has been doing for the past 2 years. And it's very difficult for me to believe that Tucker is merely anti-Israel when, for example, today, in his newsletter, I mean, I can directly quote it if you'd like. In his newsletter today, he claimed that Zoran Mamdani is not anti-Semitic. This was his newsletter today, this morning. I mean, I'm happy to read the text. It's a little extraordinary because, again, it is kind of shocking stuff. So here's what Tucker Carlson wrote in his newsletter today, or what his newsletter says under his name. He said, "Is the incoming mayor a fan of Israel? Does he want America to fight its wars? Not particularly. But a Jew hater? That's a different conversation. We've never seen anything to suggest he falls into that ugly camp. If we're talking about fighting the left, defending Zoran Mamdani, who literally said that Hamas, he has no opinion whether Hamas should disarm, who posed alongside the 1993 World Trade Center unindicted co-conspirator, who would not disown globalize the Intifada, who suggested that whenever there's a New York Police Department boot on somebody's neck, it's an IDF lacing the strings, to suggest that that's not anti-Semitic in any way? No way.
Okay, but listen, I'm going to give you a different.
What's really weird about this is, again, he wants Tucker to post what he wants Tucker to post. And I don't even know where he gets that idea from. I don't know why he thinks he can dictate that. I don't know who he thinks he is. He was really big back from before 2015. He blew up again when they got Candace Owens on their network. But it was all because of her. People started getting these, they were doing a subscription model for Daily Wire. Did great. As soon as she left, they had to stop it. They completely crashed. To the point where they had to fire Jeremy Boring, who was one of his best friends, if not his best friend, who was the CEO. And instead of acknowledging maybe we're on the wrong path, they're attacking everyone because clearly everyone else is anti-Semitic. He can't wrap his mind around people just not agreeing with his positions on Israel. 69,000 Palestinians have died in the war in Gaza. 69,000 as of yesterday. People don't like that. Doesn't matter what you think of the people. They don't like death. They don't like war. We don't like funding war. And he can't wrap his mind around it because he is more obsessed with Israel than half of Israelis are. And again, his idea of America first is you have to stand with Israel, whatever that means. And you could stand with Israeli people, as I think it was Not Worth It or Mike Levin said earlier. You could stand with the people and not be good with their government. Not according to Ben-Shapiro. You have to condemn everything he says condemn. You have to agree with him, otherwise you're morally wrong.
defense of Tucker here, and I don't need to defend Tucker because I'm not Tucker. But I'll just say, I think in general, because I know him and I listen to him and I understand generally where he's coming from, he would say his problems are with Israel, and he would say that shot that Mamdani laid against the IDF is a shot against the IDF and Israel and how he thinks they're pro-war, not against Jews.
Okay.
And I think
all I can say is when Tucker Carlson finds himself in complete alignment with Zohar Mamdani, it is very difficult for me to believe that he's not agreed with
I think
Zohar
Tucker
Mamdani.
is in a place right now of.
He just said he's in complete alignment. So what he does is he frames things in a way that are undeniable. Who can disagree with that? You can't disagree with that. If it were true, problem is he's lying. Tucker's not being complete. Tucker literally called the guy a kook and a commie. But Ben Shapiro frames it as though Tucker is in complete alignment. That's what he just said. Complete alignment.
And Israel and how he thinks they're pro-war, not against Jews.
Okay.
And I think
all I can say is when Tucker Carlson finds himself in complete alignment with Zohar Mamdani, it is very difficult for me to believe that he's not agreed with Zohar Mamdani.
I think Tucker is in a place right.
And that's where the people are like, what? He does? Oh my God, maybe Tucker is going far left. But you just lied. And they're not used to hearing Ben Shapiro lie because he used to be more honest. Since his ideas are now being challenged more, he's becoming a flat out liar. Flat out liar. And it's insane to watch because I'm like, wow, you really just said Tucker is in complete alignment with Mamdani or whatever his name is from New York.
Now of the same place that Charlie was getting to toward the end of his life, the same place that some people had tried to drive me, which is you're under withering, nonstop accusations of being something you know you're not.
Well,
but from some people who you love and who you've been protecting, at least in my case and Charlie's case, for 2 years, who you've been completely defensive of. And Charlie and I both felt, and because we talked about this on my show, like, what's happening here? Why are they dropping charges of anti-Semitism against us when we love Jews and we're both open Semites? We're Zionists.
So Megyn, you may notice, I'm just talking about me here. Are there people who are overzealous? Sure. Have I ever attacked you?
No, never.
Did I ever attack Charlie publicly about any of this?
No.
Okay, and I had disagreements behind the scenes.
You're like, you get defensive. And I think Tucker's feeling defensive.
By the way, I waited to attack Tucker until he glossed Nick Fuentes.
Disagreements behind the scenes. You tried to cut him off and make sure that TPUSA failed. The good thing is, at least he admitted it. I don't know if he meant to admit that they had disagreements behind the scenes because he didn't do it publicly. But maybe he had to because Candace released the text of Charlie Kirk literally saying it.
And Charlie and I both felt, and because we talked about this on my show, like, what's happening here? Why are they dropping charges of anti-Semitism against us when we love Jews and we're both open Semites? We're Zionists.
So Megyn, you may notice, I'm just talking about me here. Are there people who are overzealous? Sure. Have I ever attacked you?
No, never.
Did I ever attack Charlie publicly about any of this?
No.
Okay, and I had disagreements behind the scenes. Did I ever?
You're like, you get defensive. And I think Tucker's feeling defensive.
By the way, I waited to attack Tucker until he glossed Nick Fuentes. That has nothing to do with Israel. Nick Fuentes hates Jews.
I'm not saying you didn't have a right to go after him. I think you did what you thought was right, and you felt, and he mentioned you a few times in his interview with Nick Fuentes.
He did, but again, I don't think it's about that, because if he had not mentioned me in that interview with Nick Fuentes, I still would have said something about it, because again, glossing people who are white supremacists is bad electorally on a pragmatic level. A right wing that embraces its own fringes will end up in the same position as a left wing that's embraced
so that's why I want to get into it. Embraces.
Yes.
So now, having spoken to Tucker, I actually see that interview very differently. And I did listen to the interview, and I knew what Nick Fuentes was. And I think he did show himself to be who he is. It wasn't his most vile stuff, but you got the feel for what this guy was. But I really think Tucker was talking to him, Ben, to put like a bumper on this guy. Because what Tucker was urging him the whole time was to understand that collective punishment for any one group of people is wrong. It's deeply immoral, and it's anti-Christian, which this guy is supposed to be. And reminding him of how deeply immoral that is, that you should not be looking at a group of people, whomever it is. Like the left does it to everyone, whites mostly, but like this collective shame, white men in particular. And there's a group of people like Nick Fuentes that does it to groups of Jews. And he was making the case throughout the whole interview in the way that Tucker does. He's not like you or me. He's not like pointed and cross-examining.
That is not true.
And was making...
That is fundamentally untrue.
No.
Senator Ted Cruz whether that is true.
He gave it to Ted Cruz because Ted Cruz is a politician.
That's, hold on. So only politicians get cross-examined?
You don't, well, look, it depends on the person.
Tucker would never cross-examine a person who is not a politician. That's his rule?
Tucker has excoriated public figures who purport to speak for us and represent us for many years. Nick Fuentes is a podcaster civilian.
Okay, I just have a question. We all in our industry are constantly excoriating people who are in our industry. It happens all the time, every single day.
Okay.
Again,
we're talking about his interviews.
We can agree to disagree on your interpretation of what Tucker was doing there. I think everybody should watch and determine for themselves what they think Tucker was doing in that interview. And I urge you to watch it back to back with the Ted Cruz interview to determine whether you think that was an aggressive Tucker Carlson interview, and you can judge yourself.
Why would you watch it back to back? Because that was a contentious interview? Because Ted Cruz literally did what you do and called him an anti-Semite? So you want to see how he acts when somebody calls him an anti-Semite versus how he's speaking with a guy he doesn't know. Now, they've had contentions before, but he's going to explain, and this is why I felt the need to go over that interview as well, because he's going to explain exactly why he did the interview, and he's going to explain how he was going to do the interview before they even started talking.
didn't say it was aggressive. I didn't say it was aggressive. I don't think he would say it was aggressive. And I think his point was, this guy, first of all, he's become a behemoth, sadly. He's got 5 million viewers on Rumble. He's got 1 million followers on X.
I agree.
This is all before Tucker Carlson. And he was platformed, I hate that verb, but he was platformed by Patrick Bet-David. And he went on Dave Smith's show, and he went on another big show. He's been getting more and more purchase in the political ecosphere, including right wing.
And I think that's
Patrick
bad.
Bet-David has a huge show. I know, but
Patrick
did you know that Patrick Bet-David had him on? Did his life blow up?
Patrick Bet-David did a significantly more aggressive interview with Nick Fuentes than Tucker did.
Okay, but my point is simply he's growing. He's growing in stature. And so what I saw Tucker do was not whitewash his ideas, but try to put bumpers up on the guy. I know Tucker well, and I think that was his approach. And the way, if you want to put a bumper up on Nick Fuentes, is it helpful to say, you're fucking vile, you're an anti-Semite?
Yes.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it
that
is.
doesn't put a...
Yes,
no,
it
it
is.
isn't. That makes
Yes,
the
it
audience feel good because you have hand-to-hand combat, but it doesn't help change that guy's view or his extremeness at all.
Okay, I'll tell you what doesn't change Nick Fuentes' view. Tucker Carlson with his arm around Nick Fuentes, grinning for the camera, while Nick Fuentes tweets out America first, and then triumphantly goes on the air the next day to explain that he has essentially used Tucker Carlson as a vehicle for manipulating other people. Okay,
So if he uses words like basically, essentially, virtually, you know he's lying, or he's exaggerating what his point is. That's how you know Ben Shapiro's lying. Because he said something like blah, 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 blah. Something like that means he's lying. Because he can quote anything. He can quote anything. So when he's not specific, you know he's lying. And that's what he just did. He essentially said that he was using Tucker Carlson. It's a liar. Why not just say he did it? Because he didn't do it. So that's your way out of it. He's a lawyer.
Nick Fuentes is saying, not me, Nick Fuentes. Okay, and Nick Fuentes, and by the way, I will again say that Tucker Carlson, when you say to somebody in an interview, do you condemn anti-Semitism? And then the person says, sure, which is what Nick Fuentes said. He said, I'm not an anti-Semite, which is blatantly untrue. Yeah. A responsible journalist would then follow up, demonstrating that that is false. Tucker did not do that. He allowed him to get away with that, and then he allowed him to talk about, quote-unquote, organized Jewry, followed by Nick Fuentes being treated to a disquisition by Tucker Carlson about why Christian Zionists of all human beings on earth are the people that he hates the most.
He took that back.
You can't take that back. How do you take that back?
He did.
How?
Because he went, he spoke
then he should explain why it was wrong. He should explain why Christian Zionists are actually wonderful people.
Tucker is very quick to self-flagellate, and he went on with Dave Smith the next day, the next week, whatever, Monday, Tuesday this week, and said, that was stupid. I didn't mean that. He said, I'm angry at people like Lindsey Graham. I'm angry at people like Ted Cruz because he thinks they run headfirst in these conflicts and they don't think about what's going to happen to American kids.
If we're talking about firing inside the tent, what everything Lindsey Graham, okay, and I'm not a huge Lindsey Graham fan. He votes with the President of the United States 100% of the time, and Tucker spent yesterday's show excoriating him as a psychosexual death worshiper. Does that sound like
Lindsey Graham is a psychosexual death worshiper. That's why Tucker did that. The dude literally called for the assassination of Putin on national television during the conflict or towards the beginning of the Ukraine war. How is that helpful for a sitting United States senator to say that about a foreign foe that we're literally at war with? Not our war, of course, proxy war. But he got on national TV and called for the death of another head of state. That's insanity. He did the same thing he said about Russians and about people in Gaza. The dude literally say, my thing is, and what I always like to say, he literally went on, I think it was, I don't know where he was speaking. It was an Israeli event. And he said, we're cutting taxes and we're killing all the right people. That's insane to say. And that's Lindsey Graham literally said that with a smile on his face. That's why Tucker did what he did to him. Who is he representing in this country by saying something like that? We're cutting taxes and killing all of the right people around the world? Like, really? That's what you're there for? Talk about glossing or glazing. That's what he did with Zelensky. Went over there 4 times. Lindsey Graham went to Ukraine 4 times within the first, I think it was year of the Ukraine-Russia war. Why? What are you doing over there? Besides collecting bags and bags of money. Yeah, Lindsey Graham is exactly what Tucker said he was. And Ben Shapiro says, hey, this is not good. He votes the same as Trump. Who cares? The dude's he's a psychopath. But, and I said this before, this is why I took away that whole conservative term from who I am. I used to say I was a conservative. No mas. They only care about winning. They don't care about right and wrong. They're always thinking about the next election, not about the American people and not about America first. They think, well, if we win this election, we can do this, this, and this. Problem is, within a year, they're already rerunning for the next election cycle. And nothing gets done. If it doesn't get done in the first year, nothing gets done. And Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, even Glenn Beck, all these people who are pro-Zionists, whatever that means, they want to go back to those days. And those days are what got us this $36 trillion in debt. Those days are what got us into all these wars. Never-ending wars that we wouldn't have got out of if not for Trump. And they're also the people who said they were never Trump. And now they're trying to lecture everybody about what we should be doing. True conservatism. We need to go back to 1999.
Firing outside the tent? Again, these are the questions. Again, the questions that I'm asking here, I'm not asking you to do anything, Megan.
No, I know.
Okay,
I know.
I'm not.
Our beef is not with each other.
I'm not, okay? When I draw a line with regard to what I believe Tucker Carlson is doing to the conservative movement and what he is fomenting, that is because that is my info, and everyone can make their own decision as to whether they think that I'm right or whether I'm wrong and where they choose to draw the line with regard to the conservative movement. The question for me is always whether somebody's statements are forwarding moral values that I think are worthwhile. I did not get into this business for the money or for the clicks. You didn't either.
Neither did he.
What was that?
Neither did he.
I mean, he may not have. That's fine. I certainly did not. I'm only going to speak for myself. And what that means
Moral
for me
values.
is that if I see somebody breach basic moral values by having on a Nazi, and in my own view, you can take your own view, in my own view, gloss the Nazi, then I'm going to speak out about that, and I'm going to point out that there is a long pattern of him ideologically laundering terrible ideas over the course of the last 2 years, ranging from traveling to Russia to sniff the bread and explain why the Russian regime is actually wonderful, to saying...
That's not what he did. He went over there to talk to Putin because he didn't believe there was a reason that people like Lindsey Graham were calling for his assassination and that we should be at war with Russia. And why the Russia collusion, which we all knew was a hoax, but now we know it's confirmed that it was a hoax. He was trying to figure out what is it about Russia that we are attacking. And he went into a grocery store and said that it was in better shape than most grocery stores in our urban neighborhoods. And he was right. Now, was it propaganda? Who knows? Who cares? The point that he was making was about our country, not about Russia being better than our country. He was trying to figure out why they're the quote-unquote enemy. And Ben Shapiro knows this. Here's the thing that I can't take from Ben talking about his morals and all this stuff. This is from 2020. The Passion 2, he won't be crossed again. This is Ben Shapiro making jokes about Jesus. When they found out that Mel Gibson is making a part 2. That's I guess this is morals. Ben Shapiro thinks that's funny. What about this one, Ben? Ben Shapiro, this is way back in 2014. Alicia Cross wins with this comment on Jesus. Hands up, don't shoot pose. It should be hands up, don't nail. So what I will not do ever is take advice on morality from a guy who thinks
the Venezuelan regime of Nicolas...
that those jokes are funny. Because if you made that joke about anyone, if you made a joke about him, if you made a joke about Rabbi Shmuley, you made a joke about anybody that he respects, he would call you an anti-Semite. So what do I call him? Antichrist? It's just a joke. Come on, relax, guy. He thinks that that's funny. Okay, that's cool. If he were a comedian, I would have no issue with it. The problem is he runs around calling everyone an anti-Semite who disagrees with him. And God forbid you make a joke. But he's okay with making jokes about Jesus and being nailed to the cross. That's who he is. Let me see something. Let me see. Is this funny? Let's see. Now this is, I didn't, how you doing, Amber C? Video file. I don't know. I don't know if I didn't edit this one yet because I'm using this for my next live. This is him talking about Jesus. And now he's not going to say anything outrageous, but just listen to the tone and look at the smirk. He thinks this is funny. He's trying to keep up maybe with, I don't know, Ben Shapiro or Joe Rogan.
Or we don't believe in the divinity of Christ. I
Right.
think that there you can make an argument that the Gospels, which were written...
He was just a prophet. And right?
No. We don't even believe he was a prophet.
What do you think he was? What do you guys think he was?
What do I think he was historically? I think he was a Jew who tried to lead a revolt against the Romans and got killed for his trouble. Just like a lot of other Jews at that time who were crucified for trying to lead revolts against the Roman and got killed for their trouble.
So he became legend in story, and it became a bigger and bigger deal as time went on.
Yeah, he had a group of followers, and then that gradually grew, and then
Do you think he was resurrected?
No, that's not a Jewish belief.
Okay, I just want to check.
Yeah, no, we're not into
You're not
we're not
into
into miracle
zombies?
stories. No, that's
No?
not, no.
You don't have any miracles?
No,
in here?
not by Jesus. Right?
No?
They're ones in
The
the Old
God
Testament.
ones?
Like I can't join a church. I assume I don't believe the things that people in the church believe.
You probably could if you donate. You got to give the right amount of money.
Well, I don't believe in the Jesus, so there's that. There's
The
that
Jesus?
part. Yeah,
The Jesus.
that's not my thing, right? I mean, so that's from a Jewish point of view.
I don't believe in the Jesus. So he's really dismissive. He makes fun of it, and then he goes on to he's been going on to these programs during this new PR tour, telling Christians you need to go to church. Why? You don't believe in that. He's trying to appeal. He's trying to soften for when all these jokes come out about him and what he says.
Is actually not that bad because they're being attacked by, in his words, globo homo.
Tucker's made the point. I'm not going to here to be Tucker's defender, but he's made the point that Maduro is culturally conservative.
Who gives a shit? The guy's a communist dictator. Everyone in his country is eating dog. He's shipping fentanyl to the United States to kill Americans. Why do I give a shit whether he's anti-LGBTQ rights? This is the number one thing about Nicolas Maduro. You know how far down the list you have to get before you can get to anything remotely recommendable about Nicolas Maduro?
I did ask him yesterday about the criticism that he didn't give Nick Fuentes a hard time, right? He didn't bring up the stuff that we've been talking about. No, he didn't. And here's what he said. It seems to think that we've way overstated the number of Jews killed in the Holocaust. He's ripped on poor Usha Vance in the most offensive terms, which I mean, so what do you say to those people? Say, why didn't you raise any of that?
You know, do your own interview the way that you want to do it. You're not my editor. Buzz off. I mean, I don't know. You want to go yell at Nick Fuentes? I'll give you a cell. Call him and go sit and yell at him and feel virtuous or whatever. That's up to you.
I agree with him. I agree with him. I agree with him. He did the interview that he wanted to do for a reason.
I want to understand what you believe, and I want to give you a chance in a minute to just lay it out, not what you're pivoting against, which are a lot of the same thing. You know, I agree with you on some of the things you're pivoting against for sure, but what do you affirmatively believe? So I just want to stand back and let you explain it. But first I want to understand how you got to where you are, how you became Nick Fuentes. So you watch PragerU videos?
Oh yeah, I was in the Prager Force.
What's that?
It's a Facebook group for college kids, and they promote the PragerU videos.
Wow.
To the college students and high school
So you really
students.
were a product of the moment.
Absolutely.
And how'd you feel about Trump?
Well, initially I didn't like Trump. When the primary started in 2015, I considered him to be a statist.
Yeah.
Which sounds so ridiculous now.
No, a lot of people thought that.
Yeah.
So if you don't know who PragerU is, that is an organization run by what's his name? Oh, man. It's a Jewish organization. PragerU is a Jewish organization. Why can't I think of his name? I'm picturing him. I know exactly what it is. Anyway, it's a Jewish organization that the evil Nick Fuentes was a part of. So you're going to hear how he was radicalized. And now he says racist things. Again, I don't believe he's racist. I think he's just a troll who says outrageous things, trying to get people to respond. And once he gets you to his platform, you hear what he really believes. And I believe he's young and he likes mocking race. He likes mocking he just likes, he's young. If you watch the kids now, he talks like them.
And I was a libertarian, so I saw him as a big government, 1990s liberal. When he was asked about healthcare, he said, well, we'll take care of everybody. And I said, I'm a Rand Paul guy, Ted Cruz guy. Those were kind of my people back in 2015.
You like Ted Cruz?
I was a cruise missile.
Does Cruz know that?
I don't think so, no. I was actually on his campaign.
You were on the Ted Cruz campaign?
I don't know if I was on the campaign, but I door knocked in a little village in Chicago, in McKinley Park, for Ted Cruz.
No.
What's fascinating about that is Ted Cruz is Cuban. So far we have this racist guy who was part of PragerU, and now a Cuban American Ted Cruz. He was part of those organizations. He was looking for a home, and they rejected him. You ever see what is it? Let me see. What's his name? Well, I'll play this while I'm looking for this because this is funny because this is who he is.
No way.
In the Illinois primary.
Did he write you a thank you note?
No, I didn't get a thank you. He lost, so I guess.
Yeah, he did in a very humiliating way. So that's amazing. So what happened?
So I, like everybody else in 2016, went through this ideological awakening. And first I shifted to Trump. And the first realization that I had is it started in 2016, actually, because the primaries, started in 15, around April or May, I think was the first announcements. And I had very negative feelings about Trump. And like I said, pro Rand Paul, pro Cruz. But when the actual Iowa caucus happened and the primaries began, I saw that Trump was dominating. And every night in the Super Tuesday, when they had all the big contests, one after the other, I remember the media was furious that he was winning one after the other. And I remember thinking to myself, like, structurally, if I'm a libertarian or a conservative and we want to change the country, we have to win elections. If you want to win elections, you have to bypass the media. I sort of had this realization that the media was really standing in the way. They were the problem. And I had this realization that all the conservatives and Republicans up to that point were afraid to take on the media. They, like Mitt Romney, would cower before them and were so apologetic and so weak. And so initially I said, I actually don't ideologically agree with Trump at all, but he will destroy the liberal media, or at least their monopoly on thought and opinion.
Yes.
And then a breakthrough can occur. So that was kind of the first hump. And I said, I could get behind Trump because he's a winner. He'll win for our side. And that was kind of the first big thing. And then as I listened to him more and more, his speeches and his rhetoric, I started to think about immigration.
Which you hadn't really considered before?
Never. And the reason why is because I was from a 95% white suburb. So the diversity had not really reached my corner of Chicago yet. Me and my family, not so much my family, they grew up in the city, but growing up in the suburbs, I was insulated from that. So it was just not even, it's actually, you're going to love this. I don't know if I've ever even said this on an interview before. I was listening to Mark Levin's show. This goes to show how normie I was.
Actually?
I listened to him every day.
You listen to Mark Levin every day?
In high school, yes.
Wow.
I was a fan. I loved his show. And I actually liked how he was kind of obnoxious and mean to his callers.
Yeah.
Vicious. And I liked that. I thought that was funny. But I'll never forget one show. He goes live and he says, America's becoming a majority non-white country. Does anybody think that's a good idea? And I was thinking to myself, yeah, that actually doesn't sound so good. I didn't really even think that America's becoming majority minority like that.
And so you were radicalized on race by Mark Levin?
Yes.
Are you making that up?
That's a real story.
Amazing.
So Dennis Prager is the guy I was trying to think of earlier. So he was part of PragerU, Dennis Prager, Jewish scholar. Then was a cruise missile under Ted Cruz, Cuban American. And then he was radicalized by Mark Levin, another Jewish radio personality. And now he's who he is. But I found what I was looking for. I'll probably have to cut this part out, but that's fine. Whoops, wrong one. Wrong one. This is, in my opinion, who Nick Fuentes is. Bam. Bam. This is Nick Fuentes. Put this down. Put this up.
Thank you, Mr. Incredible. You've done it again.
Yeah, you're the best.
No, I'm just here to help.
Attention all units. We have a tour bus robbery into the...
Tour bus robbery? I've still got time. Officers, ma'am, it's quicker.
Cool, ready for takeoff.
What the? Who are you supposed to be?
Well, I'm Incrediboy.
What? No, you're that kid from the fan club. Brody, buddy.
My name is Incrediboy.
Look, I've been nice. I've stood for photos, signed every scrap of paper you pushed at me, but this
No, you don't have to worry about training me. I know all your moves, your crime-fighting style, favorite catchphrases, everything. I'm your #1 fan. Hey, wait!
And he literally turned from that moment, became the #1 supervillain. That's Nick Fuentes. And you just saw it. He was part of PragerU. He followed Ted Cruz, and he was inspired by Mark Levin. And now what is he? The #1 anti-Semite in the country, the super racist, deplatformed from every social media, from everywhere. They even debanked him. He was a fan that was rejected, and now he's the main villain.
He planted the seed at least. And then I saw a graphic on 4chan or Twitter, and I'm sure you've seen something similar. It said, this is what the map looks like, the electoral map, if only men vote, if only women vote, if only whites vote, if only non-whites vote. And it became very obvious what the electoral problem is. It's demographics. These immigrants are coming here. They're going to turn Texas blue like they turned California blue.
Yeah, I saw it happen.
Yeah, and you look at even the opinion polls. These people don't believe in free speech. They don't believe in the Constitution, the Second Amendment. As a libertarian, the things that are, and as American, things that are important to you, they don't understand these things. And so I said, that's another political obstacle. You've got the media, you've got immigration. So I'm thinking we're going to vote for Ted Cruz. He's going to be the constitutionalist. We'll vote for Rand Paul. He'll be the libertarian. But what stands in the way of political power for us? It's the media and it's immigration. So I said, well, we got to get Trump to beat the media, build the wall, deport the illegals. And once we set the country straight, then we can actually have our constitutional republic back. That was kind of the idea. And that's the mindset that I had going into college.
Amazing. So then what happened?
So I go to college, and I'm just, at that point, a huge Trump supporter. And you got to understand, for me, for my generation, so I was 18. I turned 18 in August 2016. And to us, Trump...
amazing.
Yeah. Well, because we're like the first generation that was influenced by Trump coming of age in that moment.
No, I say it's amazing because when you're living in something, you don't appreciate its full significance. But to be 18 in August of 2016, so this really is, as you're forming your views and really yourself.
Yes. And by we, I mean me and all the online kids, teenagers that supported him, we really believed the hype. Like Teflon Don, like... he could go into any scenario and win. Like he was unstoppable, unflappable. Nobody could score points on him. He just seemed like, they said you can't stump the Trump. Like he could not be stumped. And so he just had this aura of inevitability, invincibility. And I loved that. And so I went to Boston University. I got on campus in September and I was wearing my MAGA hat everywhere in the dining hall, walking down the street. And it's a city campus. So you're walking down Commonwealth Avenue and, you're in the city of Boston, which is super liberal. And at that time, it's different than it was now. People were getting fired for wearing MAGA hats. People were getting punched in the face. It was like being a Trump supporter was out there actually back then. It was controversial. It was controversial everywhere, not even, just in liberal Boston. But so I was wearing my hat everywhere and I was just getting accosted constantly. In the dining hall, people would come up and yell in my face. Some black girl in a hijab ran up to me and said, you know what you're supporting? You're racist, this. And I'm trying to get my pizza. I'm trying to get my oatmeal or whatever at the dining hall. This was happening constantly. And so I was going then on Twitter and I had a small Twitter account with my real name and face. And I had, maybe 200 followers. And I'm posting about my experiences. And I caught the attention of a lot of people on campus for wearing the hat, for posting on Twitter. And they found my Twitter.
You've only been there like a month?
Last weeks, maybe 3 weeks. This is starting to kick up. And
So if you just came in here, at the very beginning of this part of the interview, Tucker said, I want to know who you are, how you came to be who you are. So we're getting a background on the guy. And he started out like most conservative younger people do. But he started early, started out at 18 years old. And he was radicalized and created by the very people now who hate him. And the ones who talk about him the worst are the ones he actually worked for. But you're going to hear why.
I catch the attention of my peers and they start going at me on Twitter and giving me death threats. We're going to kill you. How dare you? If I see you, I'm going to beat your ass, that kind of thing. And this was my first experience with this. Now we're all kind of desensitized to it, but that was my first run-in with this intensity from the left. So I find a police report, I get real nervous. And, when you're a student, you can't really avoid other people. You're in a dorm room, you're in the, so you're vulnerable. And anyway, long story short, so one of these guys from the campus libertarian group, Young Americans for Liberty, he reaches out to me and says, hey, I'm not going to say his name, but he goes, I go to a school in Boston. I'm from YAL. He said, and I'd like to set up a debate with you and one of these people that's been giving you a hard time on campus because they were doing a lot of events. And so we set up the debate. It was about a week before the actual election. So I think it was end of October, beginning of November. And they hold it in this auditorium in the center of the campus and like 300 people show up. So it turns into like this huge, and they're all liberal. They all hate my guts. They're heckling me the whole time. They're yelling at me. We do this debate about Trump versus Hillary. And so I'm there and I'm pro-Trump and I say, I think Trump's going to win. And I'm straight up like ripping the Ben-Shapiro talking points. I'm saying, it's got everything to do with culture and nothing to do with race and diversity is a problem and all this. And I decisively win the debate. It's like not even close. The debate wraps up and this girl who I think I talked to her on Twitter once or twice comes running up to the stage after the debate and it's Cassie Dillon. And
so now you add Ben-Shapiro. So he literally modeled his behaviors after all the people who hate him the most now. They created a monster so they can try and tear it down. But the problem is monster got out. And now he's bigger than all of them. All of them. And they don't know what to do. So what do? They go after anybody who platforms him. The problem is his platform is bigger than all of theirs. The only people whose platforms are bigger than his is Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, people like that. But they don't mind him going on smaller podcasts. They call Tucker and Candace evil for having him on theirs. Why? I said this before. I've seen Saddam Hussein interviewed. Putin gets interviewed all the time. Hitler was interviewed back in the 30s. Like, since when do we say you can't talk to these people? Maybe because there's a backstory that you don't want us to know. And again, you're going to hear what happened between him and Ben-Shapiro.
This time she's a fellow at Daily Wire, Ben-Shapiro's company. And like I said, I barely knew her. And she comes running up and she says, oh my gosh, I live streamed this debate on Periscope on Twitter. She said, and 30,000 people watched it. And you have like 5 job offers. You did incredible. I said, wow, I don't know what to say. That's great. She goes,
You're 18 years old.
Yes. So it's like happening very quickly for me, And she goes, do you want to do a post-game interview after the debate? I said, sure. And so she asked me about how I thought the debate went and what my views are and things like that. And, very normal stuff. And then at the end, she says, I just got back from doing study abroad in Israel. She goes, and it was amazing. Would you ever take a trip to Israel? And I said, no, I think I got everything I need right here in America. And she goes, oh, okay. And she wraps up the interview. And that was a little bit of foreshadowing. And this begins a relationship, not a romantic relationship, but we become friends and we start talking. And she's plugged in, like I said, a Daily Wire. She's talking to people at Right Side Broadcasting Network, the College Republicans. I start to develop this friendship with her. And over time, she lands me this show on Right Side Broadcasting Network. And in this time, I'm really starting to lean into America first. I'm becoming more pro-Trump as time goes on. And what really stood out to me was Trump's inaugural address in January 17th. So this was just a couple months later. And in Trump's inaugural, he says famously, a new vision will govern our land. It's going to be only America first, America first. And I said, that's me. Like, that's what I believe. I'm an American nationalist. Me too. Fully at this point. Not even a conservative. I tweeted to Ben-Shapiro. I said, I've never seen anything on the Daily Wire that's actually critical of Israel. And he quote tweets me. And at this time, I have 1,000 followers on Twitter.
How old are you?
I'm 18. I'm
You're still a freshman in college, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this is even before I started my show. And I don't know, I probably got 100 likes on this tweet. It wasn't a viral tweet. He quote tweets me and says, to accuse a Jew of dual loyalty is the surest sign of anti-Semitism. And like, this is how it sort of begins. And I see this tweet. And by the way, that was on Christmas Eve in 2016.
He immediately called you an anti-Semite.
Mm-hmm. So I'm driving to Christmas Eve Mass with my family. And I see on Twitter, the notification comes up, Ben-Shapiro quote tweets me, calling me an anti-Semite. And I was like, what is this? Like, why is this guy attacking me? Because I don't have a platform at this time. I'm not an influential guy or anything. And so then I put out another tweet similar. I said something like, if you're China first, you should live in China. If you're Mexico first, you should live in Mexico. If you're Israel first, maybe you should go live in Israel. And again, he quote tweets me and says, you're an anti-Semite.
That same night?
This was, I think, a couple weeks later. Happened a little bit further down the line. And so...
Were you surprised that he knew you were?
Yeah, I was. I was surprised at why he cared.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, how does he even know who I am or what I'm about? And it turned out that Cassie Dillon, she had texted him earlier and she wanted him to take me under his wing. She texted him after that debate and said, you really like this guy. He's amazing. He did this great debate. She goes, but he's a little too pro-Trump. He's a little too Trumpy. And he goes, I'll take a look. And so I guess the two of them were kind of like grooming me in a sense. They wanted me to go maybe and be a Daily Wire or maybe looking at me as a potential conservative activist or influencer. And so they started paying attention to me. And the more critical of Israel I was, I started to get this really intense pushback from the both of them and from a lot of the people at Daily Wire.
Why do you think, so you're an 18-year-old college freshman, you're clearly talented and you're engaged, you're really interested, and you ask not crazy questions, like, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
And rather than explain it, they just call you a racist, call you an anti-Semite. Like, that's the first response. That seems like the least effective, well, it turned out to be not very effective in your case, but that seems like the least effective thing you could do. Why do you think they did that?
Well, I think that you have to look at it not in retrospect, because hindsight is 20/20. And so looking back, you could say they made a terrible mistake because look at sort of what they provoked or what they catalyzed. But at that time, you got to consider, I'm 18 with no following, with no network. I'm coming from the suburbs of Chicago. My parents didn't go to college. I have no connections. And so for them, it was very easy that if they detected that a promising young guy was going to become anti-Israel in the conservative movement, they could crush that person easily and grind them under the heel. So they sort of were alerted, oh, there's a precocious young guy that isn't on board with Israel. We'll keep an eye on him. And if he gets too vocal or popular, we'll cut him down. We'll crush him.
And this is what's really fascinating about this. Share the screen. This. Why can't I look at it this way? Let's try this. Text from, here we go. There it is. 1 second. Full screen. Here we go. This is exactly what he tried to do to Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens. These are the texts between Candace and Charlie Kirk. Up here it says, ha ha ha, you're bigger than Ben now. Walking in the White House yesterday, I realized that. Candace said, I know he hates it. This is right after she got fired, not long after she got fired. He said, we just have to treat him like noise. He wants you to punch down to him. His respect amongst movement fighters is quite low. She said, yeah, he's making his entire show with Joe Rogan this weekend about worshiping celebrities. Just think about that. It really means I just controlled his entire show. And he said, you got it. Charlie Kirk said, you got in his head. And he said, the Ben thing involves me more than he wants to admit. He knows Jon Snow is stronger as the dragons fly higher. Candace said, 100%. He said it pisses him off. She said, 2 reasons. You have always been a threat to him because you're smarter. And then Charlie said, and he's sending his incestuous brother to try and kill us. So these are Game of Thrones references. And then she said, and he views you as responsible for me. And he said, it's worse. Underneath there, it said something about he views Candace Owens as Charlie Kirk's slave. So this is a pattern. And I truly believe Ben Shapiro did not want this to get out. That's what I believe. Based on now knowing what he did to Charlie, what he did to Candace Owens, and what he did to Nick Fuentes.
This time, as you know, in 2017, it's a very different time.
I believe this. Why wouldn't I believe it? He has a pattern. So his real frustration is that this all got out, in my opinion. And he's furious because he never goes out and does what he's doing right now. Candace Owens called him the final boss. She said and everyone knows he doesn't do this. He's doing this for a reason. He's pissed. He's being exposed. Jeremy Morin got fired, had to resign because he's a weirdo. And that was his best friend. Daily Wire's not doing well. They lost so much subscriptions and followers when they fired Candace Owens.
2016, 17, any criticism or dissent on the subject was a death sentence. You became radioactive, unhireable, blacklisted, and that's exactly what happened. And basically from then on, it was just this escalating series of blacklisting, censorship, hit pieces, rumors to try to ostracize me from the movement. And
while you're a college student?
Yes. As a freshman, yeah.
So looking back with that 2020 hindsight, I mean, Ben Shapiro seems like a big part of your political evolution.
Yes.
So Dennis Prager, Ted Cruz, Mark Levin, and Ben Shapiro. They're all the ones who talk about him the most now. He's incredible. He just wanted to be down. And they didn't like some of the questions he was asking, so they tried to stomp him out, and it didn't work. And now he's bigger than all of them.
Went from a fan / acolyte to an opponent and then just pivoted against everything.
Yeah.
That he believes.
Yeah, it was because it was this new dialectic that Trump forced.
Yeah.
Trump planted the seed.
And the seed was America first.
Yes.
So once you accept that, a lot of the way we're doing things becomes impossible to support or justify.
Right. The contradiction becomes apparent. It gets moved to the center and it becomes unignorable if you're consistent.
So what kind of efforts did they make to make you go away?
So this is a couple of months down the line. You know, first they would try to dissuade me from asking questions because I was friends with a lot of the Daily Wire writers, not just Cassie Dillon, but many of them were Jewish. And I would ask them point blank. I would say, so why do we give Israel all this money? $3.8 billion per year? What is that for? And they would say, well, you know, there's a really good answer for that, but you're asking it in the wrong way. You're asking it in an anti-Semitic way. I'd say, I'm asking for the proof. You know, what's the argument there? And so first it was this sort of, hey man, could you kind of tone it down? Maybe just don't bring that up so much. But I was persistent because at this time I was genuinely inquisitive. I wanted to know, is there an actual reason? And I was actually expecting that there was a really good reason for all of it. And the more that I read, the more that I dug into the subject, the more I found out there's a lot of these neocon Jewish types behind the Iraq war. There's the foreign aid complex, which is really unique. There's AIPAC, which is this intense foreign lobby where it's bipartisan. It seems to be the only thing that the parties can agree on. And so it just made me burn more with curiosity. So I just kept asking them. And eventually they said, you know what? We're not going to talk to you anymore. And these are my friends. I met them, went to Christmas parties with them. And all of them one day said, you're done. We're blocking you. We're never going to speak to you again. We're never going to have you on our show. And I said, wow, like this seems like inhuman. I'm struck by how impersonal this is. Like here, I thought we're friends. We're all conservatives. Maybe we disagree on one issue. Now I'm being canceled by the right. So I was shocked by this.
When was this?
This was February or March 2017.
So you're still a freshman in college?
Yes.
Are you even?
He's just a kid. They try to stomp out a kid. If you haven't hit like, please hit like for me, please. I know I gotta get better at asking that. So that's very similar to what you just heard Ben Shapiro tell Megyn Kelly. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to push forward my views on the conservative movement and morals and whatever else he said. So they just cut him off, and he's like, all I'm doing is asking questions. Like, they don't like the questions. But as any good teacher will tell you, ask anything you want. I should be able to answer. And if I can't answer the question, I'll get the answer for you. Instead of doing that, they shut them down. Why? And I'm no fan of, actually, I'm not even a fan of Megyn Kelly. I just like what she did because she's being honest. I'm not a fan of Nick Fuentes. I still think he's racist. But he's a young kid. He's a troll. And honestly, I believe there's still hope for him as far as that goes, because I think he literally just uses racism again to inflame and to shock people. Megyn Kelly showed something that I didn't put up there. It was a Grand Theft Auto clip, and she misunderstood it because she's older. And he was playing GTA. He was streaming himself playing GTA, and he said he ran into Ben-Shapiro, and the what they played looked really, really bad, but it wasn't. In the game, he stopped his car and started chasing a Jewish NPC on GTA and chased it for blocks for like 3-4 minutes straight, just running after him. I just want to talk to you, man. I just want to debate. It was funny. I can see why people like this guy. I think I want him to do better. I want him to understand where he's going wrong. But you're going to hear Tucker try to do the same thing and persuade him. Hey, do you have to do it this way? And it's a good approach to somebody who's this smart, because I didn't know he was this smart till I heard him talk in long form. I'm, oh, okay, so he's trolling, but he really is smart, which tells me that the trolling is intentional.
Paying attention to college at this point?
No, not at all. And my grades started to suffer because I was just really focused on this.
So that's pretty young to get canceled and pretty young to have friendships destroyed over politics. Like that's usually, like decades down the line.
Right.
What did you do?
Well, I just became more emboldened. And so I took this story on my show. At this time, I was on RSBN, and I had this show, which I named after the inaugural. It's called America First. And I would kind of subtly bring up the Israel topic and say, this is something you're not allowed to talk about. This seems like an apparent contradiction. It's a big problem. And they escalated their attacks. Cassie Dillon would call my boss, who she was friends with, at RSBN every day for weeks, saying, you'll never believe what Nick said on his show tonight. It's so racist. It's so bad. You got to take him off the air. It's going to make you look bad. And I would then get word from my boss, Joe Seals. He was the founder at Right Side. And he would call me up and say, I don't know what has gotten into Cassie. I thought you guys were friends, but she is calling me every day hysterically, demanding that I fire you. And I was like, wow. So it just keeps getting worse. It starts with this, they're very weird about the subject. Then they don't want to talk to me. Then they're trying to get me fired. And I'm thinking, okay, so clearly what I'm asking about, there's some truth there that they don't want.
I should have asked you this earlier. Did anyone during the course of, pre-cancellation say to you, here are the reasons? You're not asking the question correctly, but there are reasons that our foreign aid to Israel is so high.
Even before he says that, this is what we're watching right now with Candace Owens, with Tucker Carlson. And we're seeing it in real time. As I'm going through my X timeline, I'm like, what is going on? This is like an orchestrated attack. It's weird. I understand what they're doing. I don't understand why they pick the people that they're doing it to, because they're the biggest people in media, on social media, in the world. And they're attacking them. I don't know what they think is going to come out of it. I don't know how they think that it's going to work. It's not good. It can't work. All they're doing is making them all bigger. They made Candace Owens #1 by calling her crazy. So people are going to want to go say, is she really crazy? They say, oh, wait, no, she's just asking questions. I may not ask it like that, but it's a logical question. It's a logical conclusion based on what the official narrative was. I don't see anything wrong with this. And this is clearly what they did with him. Clearly. I find it really interesting.
They did, but in a very general and vague way. As you know, it's never specific. They would say things like, well, they're our partner in the Middle East. They're a democracy in the Middle East. This is very vague. It's rhetorical. And I read The Israel Lobby by Mearsheimer and Stephen Walt, and they break it down very succinctly that there's no real strategic benefit. Actually, there's strategic liability. Eastern Mediterranean is not a strategically important region. The intelligence that Israel provides is not useful. Actually, it's detrimental because they frequently lie. The technology we give them, they pass along to the Chinese, which was a big scandal. So I would give them all this and say, yeah, that's not adding up. And they would say, yeah, well, you really just can't talk about that.
Your friend said that to you?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, so what happened to your job? The Right Side broadcasting gig?
Eventually I got fired. I got kicked out.
Why?
Because one of these clips that Cassie Dillon had a problem with, she ran it up the flagpole. She took it to Media Matters, actually, which is a left-wing outfit. They're like a cancel mill. And
wait, the Daily Wire person took it to Media Matters?
Yes.
Are you sure?
I'm 99% sure.
Huh. What was the clip?
It was the clip,
And-
ironically, where I was talking about the travel ban, the so-called.
He just gave himself credibility because he didn't say 100%. I know for a fact. He said 99%, which means he left himself room to be wrong. That gives him credibility. And a lot of people don't realize that. Ben Shapiro would never say anything like that. You heard him lie. Yes. With confidence. So then when you find out he's wrong, you can't believe anything he says. He just said 99%. Yeah, you know, there is a possibility that I'm wrong. That's what he said. That gives him credibility. He's doing everything right. Everyone around him and against him is doing everything wrong. And they're making this racist kid seem more logical than them, which draws a bigger audience.
A Muslim ban, and I was defending it, and I said that the First Amendment does not protect foreign nationals. It doesn't protect Salafists, Wahhabis. Right. He's like, I said, they're saying that there's a constitutional right for radical Muslims to come here. And I said that, how are they protected by the First Amendment? They're foreign nationals. And the authorial intent of the First Amendment was actually not even to protect that to begin with. It's kind of anti-Christendom radical ideology. So it's something, ironically, that probably Shapiro and Cassie would agree with, but they recognize the currency that a clip like that would have with the left. Because the left could say, you're Islamophobic, you're racist.
So she brought that to the left, saying, look at this guy. It's not that he's anti-Israel, but he's anti-Muslim.
Yes. And I was just getting sandbagged for it and blacklisted. And what's more, nobody cared. Like, because I remember going on Twitter and saying, like, why isn't anyone sticking up for me? Where's Dave Rubin? The free speech warrior. Where's he on this one? Where's Shapiro? Where's all these people? And in some way, they were all sort of complicit in this. So I realized that the conservative movement was completely bankrupt in that way.
Yeah.
Well, I became very radical.
Well, you became, I mean, let me just say, I'm so familiar with, I was much older when it happened to me and much more insulated. I was not a college student. I was like 45. So, and I was in a much better place to withstand the pressure. But I do think this is my main question to you, is when you get attacked, when people call you names, like they always call me racist. And I would always think to myself, I'm actually not. I would tell you if I was racist. I'm a little sexist, but I'm not racist. And I never understood why they did that. And then I thought maybe the point is to make me racist. Where you just get to a point where you're like, well, if you're going to slander me, then I'll just become the thing you're calling me. I do think that's a feature of human nature, don't you? Mm-hmm. And if you stare too intently at the accusers, at the, whatever Ben Shapiro's or Mark Levin's or Ted Cruz or whoever it is calling you names, it like distorts you and you actually change and become what they say you are. Have you thought that ever? Do you worry that happened to you?
No, I don't think it ever did, because I know who I am. I had a very firm grounding of what I'm about, which is that I was deeply Catholic, and I still am, deeply patriotic and pro-American. And I don't consider myself temperamentally to be an angry or a hateful person.
What did you see as like the most important gatekeepers that needed to be overturned, pushed aside in order to do this?
It was the Zionist Jews, like Dave Rubin, like Ben Shapiro, like Dennis Prager. It was these the guys that were really controlling the media apparatus that seemed to me to be the biggest impediment.
Fox is not a Jewish business, though.
Well, Rupert Murdoch is an ally of Netanyahu, so he's aligned.
Yeah.
And he owns the whole News Corp empire. So, and yeah, he's certainly a part of it also.
I mean, Dave Rubin, though, does he matter?
No, not really.
Right. I mean, Dave Rubin is like, I don't know, do people watch Dave Rubin?
They did.
And that's true. It won't get you any help. The problem is he got where he is, which is bigger than all of them, without any help. So now they really can't do anything about it. But they caused it. This is the villain. This is the villain origin story. And now he's their worst nightmare. And now you have Ben Shapiro, who Candace called the final boss, coming out. He's the last. He's the biggest one they have. And he's running his campaign where he's outright lying on people, and he can't do anything because now we have the origin story as to why he's so mad, why he's so anti this kid. He made him.
Back then, I mean, because you got to consider they were kind of like the ascendant new media, They represented the next big thing.
I mean, and Ben Shapiro seems irrelevant to me now.
But back then,
I guess that's true.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you won.
Oh, certainly. What about my views do you think are unreasonable, if yours are reasonable?
I think, again, I don't think it's cucky. I think it's reality to say that guilt is not inherited. Blood guilt is bad. One of the reasons that I'm mad about Gaza is because the Israeli position is everyone who lives in Gaza is a terrorist because of how they were born, including the women and the children. That's not a...
So he's now telling Nick Fuentes what he disagrees with about his perspectives. He's just doing it in a respectful way, and Ben wanted him to disrespect. Maybe so he can go over it. I don't know why he wanted him to disrespect, but he's telling him, I don't think it's cool to lump people together, to lump whole groups together. Matter of fact, this is why I have an issue with how people are speaking about Gazans, and they're just lumping them all in one. There's nothing wrong with what he's saying.
Western view That's an Eastern view. That's a non-Christian. That's totally incompatible with Christianity and Western civilization. They say, we're the defenders of Western civilization. Not with that attitude. Collective punishment is the enemy of Western civilization.
Yeah.
And so I hate that attitude. It's genocidal. The current claims that I'm a cancer, from Ben Shapiro, whatever, we need to be excised from the body of conservatism is a genocidal position that it basically encourages violence, as they well know. The whole thing I hate. Mm-hmm. So anytime you say a whole group of people is responsible for the sins of some of its members, I'm out.
Yeah, but that's not my view.
It's not. Okay. So so tell me your views. Rather than, you're one of those people, one of the reasons I wanted to meet you is you're one of those people who is defined by clips.
Yes.
And I'm one of those people also.
Yes.
Right? So I get it. Things may be generally true, but again, they're not always true. And there are people who just strongly disagree. And by the way, in the specific case of Israel, there are a ton of Orthodox who I know who are opposed to the state of Israel. They're more Jewish than Dave Rubin, a lot more. And yet they oppose it. Jeff Sachs is the most a wonderful man, the most Jewish, the most articulate critic of the state of Israel that I'm aware of. So I don't know, that's just meaningful. You can't, if everything is inherited, then there's no hope for the continuation of America. Mm-hmm. Do you see that?
Yeah, I don't think it's genetically inherited. And what you're saying about putting aside the tribal interest for the corporate interest, that's absolutely the case. And that's the only way the country's going to stay together.
Exactly. That's my concern.
And I absolutely agree with you. I would say, though, that the main challenge to that, a big challenge to that, is organized Jewry in America. I don't think Bill Ackman is capable of that. I don't think Sheldon Adelson is capable of that. I don't think Yoram Hazony is capable of that, for that matter. And many other, on the right and the left. And I see Jewishness as the common denominator. And you're right, it's not all Jewish people feel the same way. No one would say that, but that does seem to be the common denominator. And I just feel like it needs to be called out explicitly. And I like what you said. The other day, if you're serving in another country's military or have dual citizenship, you really can't be a part of this project.
Well, that's an easy one. But I am much more comfortable as a Christian and an American keeping it on that level because, it's easy to just set universal rules that apply to everyone, not just the Jews or the Christians or anybody, just like Americans can only serve in the U.S. military or they lose their passport. I don't know. That's not hard. And I don't know. Why not just say that?
Say what?
That. Why not make every statement about how Americans ought to behave applicable to all Americans? It's the defense of universal values that will hold the country together and the emphasis on parochial group values that will break it apart inevitably.
So he's trying to persuade Nick-Fuentes to look at it differently. That is exactly what Megyn was trying to tell Ben Shapiro, and he was like, nope. He was fluffing him, or whatever. First he said he was fluffing him, then he said he was glossing him, and didn't want to say glazing, but he's okay with saying fluffing anyway. But Tucker's literally trying to persuade him to look at it differently, in a logical perspective. There's nothing wrong with how he's doing this, but they're attacking him nonstop, saying that he was platforming the worst racist since Hitler.
Say what?
That. Why not make every statement about how Americans ought to behave applicable to all Americans? It's the defense of universal values that will hold the country together and the emphasis on parochial group values that will break it apart inevitably.
Because this is a particular issue and it's acute. Like I said, I think they are unique in that way. I think that's a unique issue, especially in the Republican Party, especially in the conservative scene.
You had dinner with Trump.
I did.
And Kanye.
Yes.
What did you think of that?
It was surreal because those are my two heroes. Those are my two number one heroes of all time. I've always been a Kanye West fan.
So one thing I keep trying to get people to understand, and this is with Enrique Torrio of the Proud Boys. True white supremacists will never follow a black man. Can't happen. Because by definition, they believe they're superior. So there's no way you can get a white supremacist to follow a black man in any way, shape, or form, because they don't look at us as humans. So far, Dennis Prager, keep going down the line. Dennis Prager, Ted Cruz. So Dennis Prager, Jewish. Ted Cruz, Cuban. Mark Levin, Cuban. Ben Shapiro, Jewish. And now Kanye West, regardless of what he says about Jewish people, he's still black. And race comes first when you're a white supremacist. Jews are secondary. They look at everyone else as beneath them. And they really don't like Jews because their ability to succeed, collaborate, whatever, however you want to phrase what they, skin color comes first. It's the first thing they see. So there's no way he can be as big of a Kanye fan as he is. He wears the shoes. He wears the Yeezys.
You like the music first?
Yes. The music, the fashion, everything.
Really?
Yes.
Do you wear those weird one-piece shoes?
I do.
You actually do?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like in public?
Yes. You don't think that's cool?
No, I do. I don't know what I think.
I'll get you some.
I've worn the same clothes since high school. Don't ask me about clothes. I'm not good at that at all. That's hilarious. So, but so you've always been a fan.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
huge
you
fan.
described your love for Trump, like sincere
yes.
childhood love for Trump. So what was it like to find yourself at dinner with him?
It was, I mean, it was funny because it was literally Thanksgiving dinner. It was 3 days before Thanksgiving. So not only was it dinner, but I'm having Thanksgiving dinner with Ye and Trump at the same table. And these are like my heroes. And, I mean, the way that it went was sort of interesting. Ye is sort of shy. He deeply admires Trump. He loves Trump. And I like that about him because Ye really admires anybody that's an industrialist. He loves builders, visionaries, architects. He's very into that. So he has a deep regard for Trump. And so at the beginning, it was a little awkward because he wouldn't talk. And he was sort of shy.
Ye.
Yes, which is surprising, right? Because he's so outspoken. But Trump was trying to get him to talk. And it was kind of like a boomer moment because Trump was trying to get him to talk about like opportunity zones. He was giving him like the black voter pitch, the black Republican.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, dude, like he's not that kind of Republican to say the least, In the first Fox News debate in 2015 in the Republican primary,
yes.
Bret Baier, the first question said, raise your hand if you will not pledge to support the eventual nominee.
Yes.
And Trump raised his hand because that's what he was saying. He said, if I don't win, I'll run independent and I'll make Republicans lose. And so I brought that up and I told that story and I said, I feel like what was inspiring in 16 is that you were willing to let the Republican establishment lose. Like you were serious about blowing them up such that you were not going to say like Pat Buchanan, who I respect, but Sam Francis acknowledged that was one of his great mistakes was ultimately endorsing Bush. I said, it showed you were serious. You were playing to win because you said, I will let this Republican Party crash and burn. I want to run as the Republican, but if I can't, I'll run independent. I said, and that's how I knew you were serious. And that's how I knew you were the guy. I said, and I feel like lately, this was right after Ronna McDaniel became the head of the RNC again. I was like, I feel like lately you're just behind all these people. I said, we're not here for Kevin McCarthy. We're not here for Ronna McDaniel or Mitch McConnell. I said, we are here for you. Like we will die for you. We are loyal to you. I said, and when you did that, that showed you could win and we rallied. I said, so I want to see more like that. I want to see you hit DeSantis, let's say, who was running against him. And he was like, oh, okay. He goes, oh, so you like that? It was right after he called him DeSanctimonious.
Yeah.
I said, that was awesome. You should have kept hitting him. He's like, oh, you like that? He goes, this guy's hardcore. I like this guy he was saying about me. And so I was trying to just get his mojo back, and, gas him up a little bit. And so that's how it went between me and him.
And what was Ye saying at this point?
Well, he was beaming with pride because Trump turns to him and says, who is this guy? This guy's great. And he was like, right? And I was like, this is amazing.
Did you call your parents in the parking lot?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You'll never believe. Yeah.
I try never to think like, how will this be perceived? It's better just to like be as honest as you can be all the time. And, and honest people will respond, agree or disagree, but they'll feel your sincerity and your honesty. But there are always people who are going to like distort it. And I recounted basically the Christian gospel at Charlie Kirk's memorial service. And everyone's like, you're an anti-Semite. I literally didn't have one thought about Jewish people. It had nothing to do with that. It was whatever. So, but I was thinking about this conversation, which I'm sure I can't imagine in the ways that it'll be distorted, but I do hope that people who want to learn what's happening and who you are will watch the whole thing. It's probably naive hope that it won't be reduced to whatever you're saying something naughty and me laughing and see they're both Nazis. I mean, that's going to happen, of course, but I'm willing to take that risk because I just think it's important to know you're clearly ascendant. You're enormously talented. You're more talented than I am for sure as a talker. So, and they've, there've been a lot of attempts to silence you and it hasn't worked. So my calculation always be as blunt as it can be. It's like, sort of want to have Fuentes on. Everyone's gonna be like, but you're a Nazi just like Fuentes. Okay. But then I'm like, I don't think Fuentes is going away. Ben Shapiro tried to like strangle him in the crib in college and now he's bigger than ever. So it probably would just be worth hearing what Nick Fuentes thinks. I just want to be transparent about my motives here.
Yeah.
So those are my motives.
That was his motives. Couldn't be clearer. I wanted people to hear that because what we hear is different from what we see oftentimes. So when I see something and I'm like, no, that's not him. I didn't even want to watch that interview because I know who the kid is, but I didn't know about Ben Shapiro trying to keep him down because again, that's what he did to Charlie Kirk. That's what he did to Candace Owens. And eventually he tried to squash all of them. And oddly enough, all of them became bigger than Ben Shapiro. And I think that's good. Because that shows that good wins. Now, I don't know about Nick Fuentes being good. I think he has the potential to be really, really good. But I don't know what he's going to do when it comes to how long he's going to keep the Jew thing going. He really does need to take Tucker's advice and focus on individuals and not lump them all together. But again, he's still young. He's still in his 20s. He's not even fully at his potential yet, which is scary for good or scary for bad, because it can go really bad with somebody like that. Because he is talented. He's very smart. You can hear he can articulate, and he's funny. I don't know if you've ever seen any of his lives, especially back in the day when he was streaming, while he was gaming. He's funny. So that's all I have. I wanted to show you guys why the media if you go on X, you're going to see nothing but how much they hate Tucker Carlson, hate Nick Fuentes, hate Candace Owens, hate Dave Smith. Who else? Now they hate Megyn Kelly. They just, and they're all using Charlie Kirk to try and, it's really, it's slick, it's sneaky, it's snakish, it's disgusting. Because Charlie would agree with me, not with you. He'd be rolling over right now just thinking about who you're interviewing. It's like, first of all, that wasn't him. He encouraged speaking to opposition. He even spoke to Ben-Shapiro, who I believe was his last interview. So that's all I got. I appreciate everybody. Toby, thanks for stopping in. Miss Phoenix, not worth it as always. Thank you guys so much. Miss Just J, spare me your angst over on Rumble. G Will Hyperdrive, Amber C, Mike Levin, thank you all for coming in. Dish and Dirt, I appreciate you, young lady. And that's all I really have for you. Don't believe your X feeds. Look at them. If you're going to align with anything, research it. Really research it. It doesn't take long. Because what I'm seeing is people are just buying into stuff and agreeing with stuff, and they have no idea what's happening. None. They're just saying, "Oh my gosh." Well, I guess I just lost all respect for Megyn Kelly, and it's like, wait a minute, she told the truth, and they're painting it as if she threw Ben under the bus, which they literally said she's throwing him under the bus by telling the truth and saying that what he said wasn't true. Amo Speaks. If you're new here, like, subscribe, share. I appreciate you all again, and thank you very much. This Jewish issue is right on the track. It really is. It really is. I don't know what they're gonna do with it, but they're pushing it, man. They're pushing it so. I almost said they're pushing it so intensely. Oh, that still didn't work. They're promoting it and they're trying to force it, and people are rejecting it, and it's not going to end well for them. Thanks. Like, subscribe, share.